Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I am so glad to be here. And my promise to you, as always, is I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your business and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And I am so stoked to have a very special guest today, Lauren St. George. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
So tell my audience a little bit about your business, who you serve.
Great. So my business's name is What's Next, and I help individuals and businesses figure out what's next for them. And that can for individuals can really vary. It can be within career and business. It could also be in other areas of their life. And for businesses, it's often, how do we grow? What's next for us? How are we going to expand? And really, see some future growth and really strategically look at what's next. So I serve both.
What do you like better? I mean, do you like working with that individual that's looking to retool or do a different version of themselves? Or are you more liking to help the business owner? What do you prefer?
I use a lot of the same methodologies for both, so it's fun. It's a fun process that I like to do, and because I think creativity needs to be playful. I think with businesses, oftentimes change takes longer, and so it's just a longer process that we go through to really see the ship turn. With individuals, change can happen, I think, quicker. The added aspect of working with individuals, though, obviously is mindset, and so that's a much bigger component of what I work with when I'm working one-on-one with someone. So there's differences between the two. I think certainly working with individuals, you can see a faster reward in terms of change in their lives, but both are rewarding for me.
I happen to believe that mindset is pretty much everything, that the way you think about things, the way you feel about things really dictate how you're going to behave, how you're going to act. If somebody comes to you and, they're just not happy with their life and they just want their life to be more fulfilling, how do you help them?
It's a great question. I think, fulfillment is a little easier to talk about than purpose, and oftentimes people are searching for purpose. I like to start with really taking an account of really where people currently are, what are their strengths, their experiences, what are the areas that they are not interested in going into, and really just doing a really good analysis of where people are right now, because I think we often forget ourselves along the way. We take on responsibilities at work and with our families and our partners, and we oftentimes really forget who we are. So I like to start in that place, because that then gives you it can reacquaint you with some of the passions that you had before, and maybe have given up along the way, or things that you want to put more time and energy into. And so I like to start with people on looking at passion, looking at those things that where you find yourself in flow, and starting at that place. And I think that then can lead to fulfillment. And fulfillment is a three-legged stool, and if one of those legs is off, I think you feel out of whack. And those three legs for fulfillment are you doing something that you feel engaged in? And it doesn't have to be work. For some people it's work, but for others it can be hobbies, it can be family, it can be a myriad of things. But do you feel engaged in something? Are you doing things that are really helping you from a self-care perspective? Are you focusing time on yourself? And those could be small things, from are you going for walks and getting fresh air, to are you taking vacations and traveling? It could be a myriad of things, but are you making sure that you are doing self-care. And the other is giving back. And giving back doesn't necessarily have to be a financial thing. It doesn't have to be that I'm donating to charity, but do you feel a sense of giving back to your community, to your family, to your friends? And I think that if you have those three things, pretty well in equal measure, you will feel more fulfillment. And then I believe that if you've got those pieces in place, you're passionate about things, you're feeling engaged, self-care, and giving back, you will find purpose. So I don't like to talk about going directly for purpose, but really what fulfills us.
No, it's good. A lot of times people, especially in business, we set these goals, and these goals, are pretty lofty, and we of course, as a business owner, we expect to reach them all. What are some good practices along the lines of reaching that goal that can help a business owner be more motivated and stay motivated, I should say?
Motivation is a big thing that we talk about, that I do with my clients and with the groups that I coach. I think first of all, we have to understand that motivation is kind of a wave, and it'll ebb and it will flow. We don't always start with motivation. There's action and there's motivation. There are times when we are passionate about something and we feel motivated to do it. And then there are times when we need to do action first, and then we'll start to feel motivation. That's a harder one, because there are times we just have to force ourselves to do something. It is easier to sit on the couch eating potato chips and watching Netflix than to get to the gym. And so sometimes you've got to force yourself into action in order to then get the motivation. You'll start to feel better. You'll see some positive results. You're going to be that much more likely to keep in that cycle of going to the gym. So I think if we understand sort of that cycle of action and motivation, and that motivation will ebb and flow, and so ride it when it's flowing, and be compassionate with yourself when it's ebbing. When you are feeling less motivated, that's okay. Don't allow yourself to completely back off, because you will fall off. But be compassionate with those days where maybe you're not as motivated to hit some goals. And I think that there are strategies that you can use in order to stay motivated. Really, I think you need a really concrete plan of how you're going to get to that goal. The sort of steps that you take need to be small enough that you can record wins along the way. Being able to celebrate those wins will keep you motivated to keep going. So you need to make sure that while you probably have these bigger goalposts that you're working towards, that you need to celebrate the small wins along the way. And you need to have a support system around you. It's really hard to do things by ourselves. Business owners know this. When we first start out small businesses, you're often wearing a lot of different hats. And hopefully, as you start to grow, you bring in people that are there to support the business. You have your family and friends around you to support you, because things get tough. Things don't always go the way we want. And so in order to stay motivated, having some cheerleaders or champions in your corner is a big plus as well.
Yeah. When I first began business, I didn't feel like I had a really good support system. I think now I do, but there are plenty of people that feel like that they're like a silo, that they're, that they don't have enough people in their, in their back pocket, or in, their cheerleader, or whatever you want to call them. So tell me a little bit about how do you find this support system? Like, what if, you're an orphan, or you don't really have family members that are supportive? Where's a good place to look for something like that?
Certainly, I think there's a lot of people who, aren't finding the support for a variety of reasons in their immediate circle. And I always say to be careful about, who you're telling what to, because especially when ideas are in their infancy and you're starting to launch a new business, you want to make sure that you're not telling people who are going to immediately poo-poo it and tell you, well, you're being ridiculous for doing that, or why are you taking on the risk, or anything that's going to shut you down before you even have the opportunity to take off. So I think you have to be careful about who you share things with. And to create a support system, I think you sometimes have to actively go out and find those people. And so there are organizations and networking groups and places where you can find like-minded people. There's small business groups that are there to not only, socialize, but to help each other on a business side. So looking towards finding people who are a mix of doing what you're doing so that you have some commonality, but also hopefully businesses that are further along than you are so that you have the opportunity to have mentors and coaches that can help you along the way when you hit those roadblocks, that help you scale, that help you grow, so that you have a support system on that are aspirational, so that you know what you're working towards and that you have the support there when you need it. So actively finding it, and that can be, either through meetup groups and business groups, through LinkedIn. There's a lot of remote online opportunities. There's, leadership boards and all those sorts of things that you can join, where you'll find people who are, like-minded and going through similar things.
Absolutely love that. It's like, I think about how when I first started out, like not knowing too many business owners, just knowing, the local business people, and then just finding that right networking group that really, it just fits you. Mm-hmm. And not all networking groups fit, and you have to be able to recognize that. One thing that I see out there a lot, and then I'm going to switch gears a little bit, but there's a lot of people out there that lack self-confidence. What is one thing that, and I know there's probably somebody listening today that may be lacking self-confidence. What is one thing that would help with gaining a little bit more self-confidence?
I think you need to take stock of the times when you've been successful. I think we have really bad memories. So I think that sitting down, even with a pen and paper, and writing down the successes that you've had in your life is a great way of reminding you that you have come a long way, that you have been successful, and reminding yourself of the wins that you've had. Almost becomes kind of your go-to sheet then when you're feeling some, lack of confidence, or when you maybe, things haven't quite gone the way that you want them to, is to remember that you're not starting from scratch. I mean, when you've been in the business world for a number of years, even if you're starting something new, you're not necessarily starting from scratch, because you've brought your success and your learnings and your experience with you. And I think sometimes we just have to remind ourselves of that.
I love that. It's funny. I have this every year I get a new planner, and I decided to switch gears and get a whole new kind of planner. And on the end of every day, it says your win for the day. And I didn't think much of it. So each day I tried to put a win. And literally I've looked back over the past 6 months now and was like, wow, I had a lot of wins. And I think that's really, maybe sometimes you're right. Let's take some stocks of your wins and your successes. And you once you do that, you're going to realize that, you did really you have had a lot of successes. I love that. All right. This is the part of the show where we get a little bit real. And so what do you love most about being in business for yourself?
I love the freedom of making the decisions. Sometimes it's a positive and sometimes it's a negative, but I think it's the thing I love most. It's the freedom of making the calls, of being as creative as you like, bringing people in that can help to support that goal, and really, having a vision that you're passionate about and want to spend your time working towards.
Yeah, it's and what I've learned with the whole freedom thing too is everybody that I talk to pretty much on this podcast, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that most of the entrepreneurs that I've been talking to have said freedom. But a little important part that a lot of people don't, because I want to unpack it. I never take the time to unpack it. We're almost here at the end of the year now. And it's like, with freedom, there comes discipline. And the thing is what I've learned, and I'm sure you've learned the same thing, is that when you are disciplined, you have actually more freedom. I used to think not, but now I believe that that's absolutely 100%. that because I am disciplined in certain areas of my life, I have so much more freedom. Would you agree with that?
I think discipline's important because, people often say, I don't have enough time to do something. And then you look at someone else and how much they're able to achieve. So I think discipline is important in really maximizing the time that you have. I think discipline is also important and it's very hard for people who own their own businesses, is to actually shut off and close the door and be present outside of work, right? Being with their family, being with their friends, so that you get that downtime, because you do run the risk of just constantly being in the business. So I think discipline's key for both being productive with your time, and then being able to kind of step away and focus on other things.
Absolutely. So this is going to be a tough question here, but everybody talks about the glamour of being in business for themselves. Oh, like a lot of my friends will say, well, you're pretty cool. You can do that. Wow, I could never do that. But we both know that there are challenges when it comes to running a business. What would you say is your biggest challenge today in today's world that, you struggle with?
My biggest challenge, even though I have a marketing background, is self-promotion and selling myself. I don't, I know that we all sell ourselves in different ways, and whether you're, specifically in a sales role or not, we're all selling. But it has been, for my career, has been the hardest part is selling and self-promotion.
Yeah, I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, business owners, we kind of like downplay that whole selling ourselves, but every day, you're so right, every day we are selling ourselves. If it's not, through our marketing, but it's through our conversations we have with people, it's through the way how we are present day to day in our business and how people see us. So yeah. So final question is, give one piece of advice to someone who may be just starting out in a business, or maybe thinking of having a business. So it would be universal, or somebody who's seasoned that will help them move forward maybe today. What would that be?
I think with any journey that you're taking, whether you're starting it or whether you're trying to figure out the next chapter, I think the most important part is figuring out your why. I think when you can figure out your why, you understand your motivation, and it becomes the thing that helps to fuel that fire. Being able to come back to it regularly and remind yourself why you're doing something, I think is really important. So uncovering your why, and not just the superficial why, it's really digging deeper and peeling back the onion. But when you understand that, when you understand the root of why you're doing something and what's really motivating you, I think that will propel you forward, regardless of what stage you are in with running a business or in your career as a whole.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you. And if anybody has like resonated with you today, or they need some help in maybe being stuck, or, they don't have they're lacking some self-confidence, or maybe they just need some help with like clarifying some really great goals for their business and moving forward, how would they get in touch with you? And are you offering anything to my audience?
Sure, you can find me at answerwhatsnext.com, and through there you can book a call with me directly, or you can sign up for my weekly newsletter if you want some inspiration and some tools that you can bring into your life immediately. And for anyone who mentions BizGone Social, I will give a 10% discount off of either my one-on-one coaching or the group coaching that I do.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you again. And until next week, everyone, I'll see you soon. This is the BizGone Social Podcast. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the BizGone Social Podcast. Find us on Instagram at BizGone Social for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.